King Ashwapati had everything: power, kingdom, legacy, everything, except an heir. Years passed in silence. Then he turned to austerity, not for wealth, not for victory, but for a child. He prayed to the unseen, day after day, year after year, until the answer came. A daughter was born, Savitri. She did not grow like others. She did not speak loudly. She did not seek attention. But wherever she stood, attention came to her. Men saw her and looked away. Not because she lacked beauty, because she carried something else, something difficult to approach. Time passed. No one came forward. No alliances, no proposals. So her father spoke. Go, choose for yourself. She left the palace, crossed kingdoms, watched men in courts, heard warriors speak, and rejected them all, until she reached the forest and saw him, Satyavan. No crown, no army, no wealth, but no falsehood either. He was not born there. Satyavan was the son of a king, Dyumatsena, a ruler who had lost everything. His sight failed, his enemies moved, the kingdom was taken, and the royal family was driven into the forest, not as ascetics, as survivors. Satyavan grew there, without court life, without luxury, cutting wood, gathering food, serving blind parents in exile. That was the life she had chosen, not hidden royalty waiting to return, not a fallen prince promising future power, a man already living inside loss, and still untouched by bitterness. Rajyabhrashto vanam prapto, Dyumatseno mahipatihi, andhatvam cha samasadya, saha putren jivati. Translation: King Dyumatsena, deprived of his kingdom, entered the forest. Having become blind, he lived there with his son. She returned, decision made. Then came the interruption. Narada arrived. He listened, closed his eyes, and spoke. Alpayustu sutastasya, Satyavan nam namataha. Translation: That son named Satyavan is short-lived. Silence filled the court. Not uncertainty. Finality. 1 year. No ambiguity, no escape. Her father turned to her. The decision was still hers, but now it carried death with it. Would she walk away or step forward? Knowing exactly where the path ends, the court did not move. The words had landed, short-lived. 1 year, that was all. Her father spoke first, not as a king, as a father. Choose again. No anger, no command, just fear. Because this was not about alliance, this was about loss. Savitri did not respond immediately. She did not argue, did not justify. She stood still, then spoke, not loudly, not defensively, but with something far more dangerous: certainty. Ekvaram rito bharta, na dvitiyam vrinim yem. Translation: A husband once chosen, I do not choose again. No emotion followed, no pleading, no negotiation, just closure. Her father tried again, explained fate, explained consequence, explained grief, before it even arrived. She listened and did not move, because to her, the choice was already complete. Not because she ignored death, but because she had already accepted it. The marriage was performed, no celebration, no grandeur. A quiet union between a princess and a man already marked by time. She left the palace, not as someone deceived, not as someone hopeful, but as someone who had seen the end and still chosen the path. She entered the forest, and with that, the countdown began, not for him, but for her, because she was the only one who knew what was coming. The forest did not recognize her. It did not care who she had been. No palace walls, no royal rhythm, only repetition. She woke before dawn, gathered water, prepared food, served quietly. Her husband, Satyavan, moved through life without weight. He spoke freely, worked steadily, laughed without hesitation, because he did not know. She did, and that changed everything. She watched him closely, not with fear, not with desperation, but with awareness. Every gesture mattered, every word stayed. Days passed, then months. She did not mark them aloud, but she counted, silently. Each sunrise, one less. Each night, one step closer. Nothing in the forest reflected it. The trees stood still. The sky did not change. But inside, time moved differently. Not slowly, not quickly, but precisely. Nahi kaschit kshanamapi jatu tishthatya karmakrit. Karyate hyavashah karma sarvah. Prakriti jair gunai. Translation: no one can remain even for a moment without action. Everyone is driven helplessly to act by the qualities born of nature. She did not resist this movement. She did not attempt to escape it. She aligned with it, lived within it, served within it, waited within it, not because she was powerless, but because she had chosen not to step away. That was the difference. The forest did not bind her decision did, and the day she had been counting toward was no longer approaching. It had almost arrived. One morning, she went down to the river early, submerged herself in its cold water, and took a ritual bath. Her father, King Ashwapati, had told her that he had performed devotion to the sun to obtain her as a daughter, so she invoked the sun's life-giving blessings in her heart. Not out of habit, but an inner certainty grounded in faith. This was the day. There was no announcement, no signal, but she knew. She did not panic. She needed to be strong for her Swami, determined for her Swami, rooted in dharma, unshakable in her faith and Stri dharma. She did not share her thoughts with anyone, but she was resolute and calm. She emerged from the river and sat on its bank and prayed to Lord Shiva and offered Jal Abhishek to the Shivling. She then began a fast and returned to Satyavan, ready to face the day. She stayed near him, watched him prepare, watched him move as always, unaware. He picked up his axe, stepped toward the forest. She followed. He turned, questioned it lightly. She did not explain, just stayed beside him. They walked deeper. The air was still, too still. He began cutting wood, routine, movement. Then, it stopped. His hands slowed. His breath changed. He pressed his head. Pain, sudden, unavoidable. He staggered, dropped the axe, collapsed. She moved instantly, held him, lifted his head into her lap. His voice weakened, then faded. The body remained, but something had already shifted. Something had already left. Satu murdni mahad dukkham prapya, bhumau nipatitaha, shirasa sabhyavaptat, savitrya upalakshitaha. Translation: overcome by great pain in his head, he fell upon the ground. His head dropped, and Savitri caught him as he fell. She did not cry, did not panic, did not call out, because she had already reached this moment. Long before it arrived, the forest remained silent, but someone else had entered it. Someone who does not announce himself, someone who does not hurry, someone she knew who never fails, and she could feel him before she saw him. She looked at the body, then at the one leaving. There was no confusion, no doubt, no hesitation. She stood, not to protest, not to stop him, but to do something else entirely. Something he did not expect, something no one expects. She began to follow. Yama. He had not rushed, he had not hesitated. He had stepped forward, looked at the body, then beyond it, because that is what he had come for. Not flesh, not form, but life. He had drawn it out, subtle, precise, unseen to most, but not to her. She had seen. She had watched him take it, watched him turn, watched him begin to leave. No words, no acknowledgement, because this was not a negotiation. This was law. And law does not explain itself. Tatah sa dharmarajastu purusham sukshma darshanam nishkrushya dehatasya jagam yamasadanam. Translation: then Dharmaraja drew out the subtle being from his body and began to depart toward his own abode. She just followed him respectfully, her hand in the namaste position. She acknowledged his power, but she was not broken. She has the power of her Stri Dharma. Everything had now happened exactly as it was said. The prophecy had completed itself. The path had reached its end, or so it seemed. He did not turn back. Not at first, because no one follows. No one walks behind death. But she did. Step by step. No rush, no panic, just presence. Yama moved forward. She matched him. The distance did not change. The silence stretched. Then he spoke. Not in anger, not in surprise, but in correction. Return. She did not stop. The path beneath them was no longer the forest. No trees, no sound. only movement. He spoke again, more firmly. You cannot come further. Still, she continued. Not out of defiance, but alignment. Then she spoke. Not to argue, not to plead, but to state what she knew. Anugachami te margam, yatra gachasi dharmarat, nahi me twadvina gantum, shakyam jivit matmanah. Translation: I follow your path, O Dharmaraja, wherever you go, for without him I cannot sustain my life. Yama slowed. Not stopped, but slowed. This was not resistance. This was not attachment. This was something else. He observed her, measured her words, then replied, Na striyo dharma margena duram gantum, kshama sada, nivartasva mahabhage magama panthametyut. Translation: Women are not meant to go far along this path of dharma. Turn back, O noble one, do not proceed further. Yama told her to return. But Savitri did not answer emotionally. She answered with dharma. She spoke about companionship with the righteous, how walking even briefly with the virtuous is never meaningless, how dharma is preserved through association with those who uphold it. Then she spoke directly. Saptapadam hi mitratvam prahur dharma vidojana. Mitratvam cha puraskritya kimnu vaktum tviharhasi. Translation: The knowers of dharma say that even 7 steps together create friendship. And considering that bond, what is improper for me to speak here? This was not flattery, it was structure. She was establishing relationship through dharma itself, not personal attachment. Yama listened, because what she said was correct. And correctness matters in dharma, especially to the one who governs it. For the first time, Yama did not command, he listened, and that changed the path. He did not stop. But he no longer ignored her, because her words were not empty, they were aligned, measured, consistent. She spoke of dharma not as argument, but as reality. That mattered. She continued speaking. Not rapidly, not desperately, with precision. She spoke about conduct, about how the righteous behave even towards strangers, how compassion is inseparable from dharma. Then she said, Adroha sarvabhuteshu karmana manasagira, anugrahascha danamcha satam dharmah sanatana. Translation: Non-cruelty toward all beings in action, thought and speech, and generosity and compassion, this is the eternal dharma of the noble. That mattered, because she was no longer discussing herself, she was describing the standards of the righteous, and Yama is Dharmaraja himself. To reject dharma while ruling over it would create contradiction, so he responded, Tushtoasmi te vachobhirhi, dharma yuktai raninditae, varam vrinishva savitri, yadikchasi varanane. Translation: I am pleased with your words, grounded in dharma and beyond reproach. Ask a boon, O Savitri. This was not the goal, but she did not hesitate, because she knew how to move within this moment. She did not ask for what was lost, not yet. She asked for something else. Andhatvam piturasyastu, shwashruscha punarayushah, prasadattav dharmagya punardrishtir bhavishyati. Translation: Let my father-in-law be freed from blindness. Through your grace, O knower of dharma, let his sight return. Granted, without resistance, without delay. Yama moved again. She followed. Again, no hesitation, no pause. Again, he spoke. Dvitiyam varamichhasva savitri, yadi te manah, nati duram tvaya gantum, shakyam panthanamenasah. Translation: Ask a second boon, Savitri, if you desire. You cannot go much further on this path. She answered immediately, not for herself, never for herself. Rajyam pitu punarlabdham, shwashurasya mahatmana, nashtam rajyam punah prapnuyat, tvat prasadanna sanshayah. Translation: Let my father-in-law regain his lost kingdom. By your grace, may it be restored. Granted. Again. And still, she did not stop. This was no longer about boons. This was movement, strategic, precise. And Yama knew it. But he allowed it, because nothing she had said had crossed dharma. Yet, the path had changed. Not in form, but in direction. Because now, Yama was no longer ending the conversation. He was sustaining it. That mattered. Still she walked beside him. And still she spoke of dharma. Not abstractly, practically. She spoke of trust, of refuge, of consistency in speech, that the noble do not break what they affirm, that truth binds action. Then she spoke again. न च सत्यात् परो धर्मो नानृतात् पातकं परम. Satyena dharyate sarvam, satye sarvam pratishthitam. Translation. There is no dharma higher than truth, and no sin greater than falsehood. All is sustained by truth, and all is established upon truth. Now the structure was complete, because Yama had already spoken, already granted, already affirmed, and Dharmaraja himself cannot violate Satya. That is why the final boon succeeds. Not because Savitri tricks him emotionally, but because she forces complete consistency between dharma, truth, and action. He spoke again. Tritiyam varamichhasva Savitri varvarnini yatheshtam te dadamyadya yat kamayase shubhe. Translation. Ask a third boon, O radiant Savitri. Whatever you desire, I shall grant. This was the moment, not outwardly, but structurally, because now she could ask for anything, and she did. Putran me dehi dharmagya satyavatah kulodbhavan bahun viran mahatmanah shat sankhyan susanskritan. Translation. Grant me sons, O knower of dharma, born of Satyavan's lineage, many, strong, and noble. Yama granted it, immediately, without hesitation. Because there was no violation in the request. Not yet. He continued forward, but only for a moment. Because something had already shifted, not in her, in him. Because now, there was a contradiction, not emotional, logical. He had granted her sons, from Satyavan, but Satyavan was gone, and Dharma does not allow contradiction. That was the rule, and for the first time, Yama was bound by it, not by force, but by consistency. He stopped, fully, and turned. He turned completely. Not partially, not reluctantly, fully, because now this was no longer movement, this was resolution. Yama looked at her, not as a follower, not as a petitioner, but as someone who had remained within dharma, at every step, and that left no room for denial. Dharme sthitasi Savitri, satyena cha parantapa, tasmat tav patim jivam, punar dasyami sundari. Translation. You have stood firmly in dharma, O Savitri, and in truth. Therefore I return your husband to life. No negotiation followed, no condition added, because none was required. The structure had completed itself. Yama released the soul, not forcefully, not dramatically, simply returned it. The movement reversed. What had been taken was now restored. She did not react outwardly, did not celebrate, did not collapse, because this had never been about reaction. It had always been about alignment. And now, alignment had resolved itself. She turned, walked back. Not quickly, not urgently, but steadily, because she knew what she would find. And when she reached him, the stillness was gone. Breath had returned, as if nothing had happened, but everything had changed. The forest looked the same. Nothing had shifted, no light had changed, no sound had altered, but the outcome was different. Satyavan rose, spoke as before, moved as before, because he had not seen what she had. She helped him stand, guided him back. The path was the same, but the result was not. They returned to the hermitage, and one by one, everything unfolded. Praptam rajyam cha tenaiva chakshushi cha punah pituhu. Savitrya tapsa sarvam punar labdham na sanshayah. Translation. The kingdom was regained, and his father's sight restored. Through Savitri's austerity, all was recovered, without doubt. Blindness, gone. Loss, reversed. What had been taken, restored in full. Not through force, not through rebellion, not through chance, but through something far more precise. Because nothing she had done had broken dharma, and that is what made this possible. Not love alone, not devotion alone, but consistency. Across every moment, across every decision, even when the outcome seemed fixed. Because what seemed inevitable was never actually independent of action, and what she chose changed everything. Why did this story matter so much? That it was preserved inside the Mahabharata itself. Because this was never only about love. If it were only love, the story would end with grief. But it does not, because the center of this story is not emotion, it is dharma. Savitri never rebelled against cosmic law. That is the important part. She never denied death, never called Yama unjust, never demanded exception. Instead, she aligned herself so completely with dharma that contradiction became impossible. That is why Yama yielded, not because he was emotionally moved, but because dharma itself required consistency, and she never departed from it. From the Katha Upanishad, Satyameva Jayate Nanritam, Satyena Pantha Vitato Devayana. Translation: Truth alone triumphs, not falsehood. Through truth, the path to the divine is opened. Savitri never abandoned truth, not when warned, not when afraid, not when death stood before her. That steadiness mattered, because in dharmic thought, truth is not merely speech, it is alignment between word, action, and duty. And she never broke alignment. From the Manusmriti tradition, Dharm ev hato hanti, dharmo rakshati rakshitah, tasmad dharmo na hantavyo, mano dharmo hato avadhit. Translation: Dharma when destroyed, destroys. Dharma when protected, protects. Therefore, dharma must never be violated, lest violated dharma destroy us. This story is one of the clearest demonstrations of that principle. Savitri protected dharma in marriage, in conduct, in speech, in restraint, in loyalty, and even in grief. So dharma protected her in return, not magically, structurally. That distinction matters, because modern people often think dharma means passive obedience. But this story shows something more difficult. Dharma requires clarity, endurance, self-control, and precision under suffering. Savitri does not win through force. She wins because she never loses alignment, even when facing the one thing no human being can overpower, death itself. And that is why the story survived for thousands of years, because it teaches that fate is not always broken by power. Sometimes it is transformed by unwavering dharma. And now a small request. If you believe that honest, research-based conversations about our culture matter, then subscribe to this channel today. Turn on the bell notification and share this video with anyone who wants to seriously understand the rich culture of India. And let us carry our identity with quiet confidence, whether through our values or our conduct, because an informed society becomes a strong society. I will see you again in the next episode. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, Vande Mataram.